Hi, I'm Ryan, and this is the story about how my friend's bag got stolen in Amsterdam. So, my two friends, Jake and Sam, wanted to do like a senior trip to Europe, and I went ahead and joined them. I wasn't a senior at the time, I was just like a freshman in college, but I ended up going with them, and we went to a few different places throughout Europe, and one of them was Amsterdam. And while we were there, we saw like some things, like we went down like the red lights district and like we smoked weed and stuff. But that was about it, pretty much. Finally, our next stop was in Berlin, and so in order to get there, we were going to take this train, and we ended up getting to the train station like super early because when you're in like Europe, you have no clue how like slow or long transportation like lines are going to be and such. And so we were there super early and we didn't need to be. So we were just sitting around in like the central station area. While we're sitting there, we're all just kind of sitting with our bags and stuff. These two people come up to Sam and like I'm kind of like we're sitting on this like column that has seats around it. And so I'm not really looking at Sam at the moment, but apparently these two people come up to him and start like, asking him like if he has any spare money for them and stuff. And I think he just said like no or whatever. And they walked away. And then a little while later, he looked down and he suddenly noticed that his bags were just gone. He like started asking us. He's like, "Do you guys see where they went or anything?" And I was like, "Well, no, I wasn't even looking." And he talked about how he's pretty sure when the people came up to him to talk to him, one of the other people like just took his bags real quick. They were just sitting next to him. I remember hearing that, and I just thought that was insane because it's like that could have been me because I was just sitting there doing the same thing. I remember like on one hand being so thankful it wasn't me, but on the other hand, I really felt bad for my friend and such. But I do remember as we kept sitting there, I ended up putting my bag just underneath my leg, just that it wouldn't get taken or anything. But we ended up going over to the little police station they have in the train station, and we asked them about if there was anything they could do, look over, camera footage or just anything. And I think that generally they're pretty lax about things like theft in Europe, from what I've heard. And the police officers ended up telling us, sorry, there's nothing we can do. They're probably long gone by now. Probably jumped on a train or something. So we thought about jumping on the train and going to Berlin, but without Sam's stuff, he really couldn't go because one of the most important things he had that was in that bag was his passport. He also had like some money and like a portable charger and of course the bag itself. But without that passport, you can't make it to another country. So we ended up missing the train, and I was a little bummed because suddenly it was like, well, where are we gonna stay now? And like, how are we gonna buy another ticket and such? I mean, I was already pretty tight on money myself, and I know in Jake and Sam's situation, they were being funded by their parents for this trip, but I wasn't, and so it ended up being that Sam's mom, felt really bad about the situation and ended up getting us a hotel room to stay in for a couple more days while Sam tried to figure out his passport situation. And so that was really helpful. Sam, in order to get his passport back, he had to go to the embassy in Amsterdam, and so he ended up getting there, and they ended up getting him this thing that's called an emergency passport, which is kind of just this like flimsy paper version of the regular one, and you can just use it in emergencies to travel around if, for instance, yours gets stolen. Well, he told us after he got it, he was like, I don't even know if I want to keep doing this trip. Maybe we should just go back home and such. But his mom ended up talking to him, ended up saying that she'd cover, any of the things like getting a new hotel room in Berlin or a new train ride there and stuff. And so he ended up agreeing. But I think that, the first half of the trip had been really fun. But after that happened, the trip just kind of fell off a bit. It felt like it wasn't quite as fun. And I think we didn't quite do as much when we got to Berlin. I think that's partially my fault because I was the one supposed to be planning Berlin and I ended up not. But we did some stuff. He ended up trying to also buy back some of the other stuff that he needed in his bag. He got a new portable charger. And for the bag itself, he ended up buying this jawstring from a like popular smoke shop in Amsterdam. When we tried to leave Berlin to get back home, when he got to the airport there, they ended up stopping him for his emergency passport because they weren't going to accept it because it wasn't like a normal one. And so we sat there a while, like dealing with them. And finally, this police officer comes up to look at it. And the way I would describe him, he was a really big guy who both looked and talked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he looked at the passport and he was like, "Okay, I guess this is fine. You can go." And we finally got to leave. That whole experience. I just wonder like what our trip would have been like if that hadn't happened. And also when we ended up staying in that second hotel room, the one that Sam's mom got for him, we were in a different part of Amsterdam where there's a lot more like art museums and stuff. And I suddenly realized I was like, there's a lot more to do in Amsterdam than I thought there was. Is they've got like this art museum with a lot of Rembrandt's artwork because he was from Amsterdam, and it was just like, wow, if we had planned out this trip better, we could have done more here. But yeah, all right, that's all I have to say. It's done.